Hello and welcome to the Premier Injuries channel. We're doing a stream for the first time in a long while, Ben. I think we've just been very busy with a lot of things and we haven't been able to get round to these, but we thought because it's such a busy period in the Premier League, there's a few double game weeks coming up, there's been quite a lot of injury news and speculation, we thought it was essential for people to know. Just before we start the stream, welcome back. Welcome to the stream. Remember to hit the like button if you like this sort of content. Also subscribe to the channel and you can comment below if you've got any kind of serious questions that you have. But first and foremost, Ben, I mean, it's been a bit of a shocking start to this game week 26, isn't it? Let's swing over to Liverpool. I think first and foremost, they're the ones that made the headlines, didn't they?
It was an absolute killer, mate. It was the first, apart from obviously the West Ham Newcastle game. So it was the first one of those 2 o'clock team news announcements that came through. And of course, Trent, Robbo out of a starting 11. But for a lot of FPL managers, you know, Sadio Mane and more importantly, Mo Salah going for his 150th goal. You know, that was the big one. So maybe that tempered that Trent absence a little bit. But for me, I took a last minute punt with Fan Team and I went triple Liverpool defence, captain in Trent. And yeah, that one's going to come back to bite me for a long, long time.
Oh, no. But on this issue then, some people have been worried. Have these players been rotated because there's injuries in the team or for any other reasons? There's Firmino and Jota definite injury news, but were Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson rested for any other reason than just rotation?
Just rotation, according to Jurgen Klopp. I mean, Andy Robertson was named on the bench, whereas Trent was giving a full afternoon off. But like I say, we have heard from Jurgen Klopp already, and he sort of calmed the situation. He said it was just purely a tactical decision to keep him out. And fully rest him ahead of the midweek fixture and then also the Carabao Cup final next weekend.
So with that situation then, do you expect the Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson picks to come off in the next game against Leeds, or are we still going to be punished as an FPL community believing in that Liverpool back line?
Look, I firmly expect them to start. I firmly expected them, to be named in that starting 11 against Norwich. 4 days rest between games. That's more than enough time to return to optimum levels. 4 days from that intermatch, 4 days to their midweek game, and then 4 days for the Carabao Cup. However, what we're dealing with now and what we haven't seen for a long, long time at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp more or less, I was going to say more or less has a fully fit squad. We will touch upon those 2 latest injury updates, but there's a lot of competition for those players. He is juggling a lot of balls and he needs to keep some of those players on the fringes of that squad not only happy, but he also needs to keep them sharp. So, should the likes of Trent and your Robbos pick up injuries, these players can come in from the sidelines and hit the ground running.
I'm most disappointed about the fact that Jurgen Klopp's actually taking the Carabao Cup serious for once. In previous seasons, it was almost guaranteed that he'd put second string team out and not be too worried about it. And it was of a cost to Arsenal as well. We could have got to a Carabao Cup final if Klopp had just, stayed true to his original roots. But I suppose they see it as an opportunity to win a trophy. Let's move the attention then to Burnley. A lot of discussion coming out of there with 2 potential injuries to 2 of their big stars, Weghorst and Maxwell Corney. What's the situation there, Ben?
Just before we move on to Burnley, I did a couple of quick updates on the Liverpool guys because people will be interested. The Diogo Jota ankle problem that he picked up in Milan, that's not as serious as initially thought. He is out of the midweek game, but like I say, it certainly doesn't look as if it's long-term. However, bad news with Roberto Firmino. He did pick up that injury in the in the Champions League, but he didn't feel that at the time. That looks like it's going to be a bad one, and he's expected to be out for quite a significant period. Now, the Burnley updates. 2 of the ones that, they've got a double game week here, so a lot of the community are invested in Weghorst. He come into the game on the back of a hip pointer or impact injury on that hip. Quite painful, but he was cleared. He's been pictured post-match with his, I think it was his right knee heavily iced, couple of knocks, tough, bustling centre forward. Player had a great game, scored an excellent goal. But Sean Dyche said he'd be absolutely fine. Nothing more than what you would typically sort of pick up in the rigours of a normal sort of Premier League fixture. For Maxwell Corney, he looked as if he got caught from behind, quite a nasty looking tackle from Alexi McAllister. That was sort of back of the calf, Achilles. Again, that looked to be more of a precautionary withdrawal, and Sean Dyche fully expects Corney to be available on Wednesday evening.
And so with the Burnley situation as well, I think it's quite interesting. There's two of the dreaded COVID breakouts there. In that situation then, who is out with the virus?
Yeah, so we didn't have any inclination ahead of kickoff. So when the team news dropped at 2 p.m., we seen James Tarkowski out of that match day squad, and also Ashley Westwood. Now, Sean Dyche said that both players had tested positive for COVID. We don't know actually, when that positive test was submitted, and when pushed on whether those players could be back on Wednesday, he talked about the protocols, when they would be tested, and also, obviously when they can be cleared in time for a return to training. So as it currently stands, those two players are rated as 50-50 for a possible return midweek.
And the thing is as well with a COVID situation like that, if they do, when they do have the virus, it's not always whether they come back within the kind of set rules. It's also how quickly they recover from it. So it's not a guarantee that they will be back within the first few days of testing negative, is it, Ben?
Absolutely not. I mean, the virus affects players in different ways, and we've seen, symptoms, long COVID go on for a while. So like I say, we cannot be held down to any kind of definitive timeline with regards to both players. What we do, I suppose, reading between the lines with Sean Dyche, he didn't give any indication that the symptoms were severe. So I'm assuming that those, once they go through that period of that protocol and they can return, submit that negative test, then they'll be integrated back into team training, and hopefully they won't be too far away.
And how worried do Eric Peters owners have to be? Because Charlie Taylor is returning very soon, isn't he?
He is. He actually has an outside chance of returning to the squad on Wednesday night. If he does miss out, I think Burnley play Palace in the fixture of that, and he will be available. However, he heard from recent comments from Sean Dyche, and he's commended, the form and the fitness of Eric Peters, and how he's a guy who really looks after himself. He's obviously approaching the twilight years of his career, but he's done a great job. And you look at that result today, it's a clean sheet, it's a 3-0 victory. So that's fantastic in that regard. And for me, we've seen, I think it's, is it with Connor Roberts also on the opposite flank? Once those guys are in and they earn that shirt, Sean Dyche keeps faith, and if you're playing well, then you'll keep that place.
Caf Dan in the comment section has actually asked the question really quickly: is Corney out for long? And you said that he will probably be back for the next game, is what Sean Dyche said.
Yeah, he did, but it's always difficult. What I wouldn't like to sort of be pinned and held down to anything definitive at this point, because injuries can evolve. We've seen the Roberto Firmino one. There was nothing post-match that was fairly evident there, and now it looks like it's going to be a serious one. So as it looks, in that initial assessment, that Achilles issue looks to be fine, and I'd be very surprised based on what we know if Maxwell Corney wasn't involved midweek.
And this is why I always remind people as well to subscribe to the channel, because we will keep you up to date all the time. We have the breaking news, no misinformation, no rumours. We don't do anything like that. We just tell you the straight truth and give you analysis as well of these injuries too. So this is the best place for it. Hit that subscribe button and you won't miss out at all. Let's move it over to your boys though. Newcastle, bit of a shocking one here. Alan Saint-Maximin, I mean, is he going to be out for long?
We hope not, because he's a player that can break the lines and obviously create something out of absolutely nothing, and he's just a pest on the pitch. This one come as a surprise, went very much under the radar. Although, I did watch the Villa game and he had picked up a knock, but there's rarely a game goes by when Alan Saint-Maximin doesn't pick up a knock, but his powers of recovery, are such that he always tends to be available. But it was a kick too far, it seems, took a couple of knocks in and around that sort of calf area. Eddie Howe was hopeful of San Maxim being available for this game, but he failed a late fitness test on Friday and he didn't travel with the group. So that being said, I think game week 27 is realistic to see San Maxim back. It's more of an impact injury as opposed to any kind of strain or muscle tear.
And any more news on Magpies players? We know the Kieran Trippier situation is kind of an ever-evolving one, but he's out for the longer term. Is there any more updates from there?
Yeah, Javi Manquillo, that's an ankle ligament problem. He went up for a header against Aston Villa, landed awkwardly, rolled his ankle again. Not as severe as first thought. That initial timeline is maybe around 2 to sort of 3 weeks. Elsewhere in that Newcastle camp, we know Callum Wilson is targeting to return hopefully before the end of the season. We said Jamal Lascelles was back in the matchday squad on Saturday at West Ham. He's returning after illness, but of course the form of Fabian Shaw and also the man-of-match performance of Dan Burn against Villa, that meant that Lascelles had to watch on from the sidelines.
And a lot of people will have interest in the Newcastle assets because game week 28, there is a double up there. I mean, how confident are you for a near fully fit squad for those 2 games in one game week? So just quickly for people who may not know, it's Newcastle at home to Brighton on the Saturday, the 5th of March, and then just a few days later on the Thursday, Southampton hosts Newcastle away. So quite interesting games there of teams in and around Newcastle's position, quite important games too. But yeah, how confident are you for the team to be fit for that?
It's going to be difficult, I think, at the minute, Jay. The injuries that we have got are fairly significant ones. I think the 2 that I mentioned who have a chance, certainly San Maxim, in and around maybe game week 27. The rest, the Matt Ritchies and that, and maybe even the Manquillos, it might be a little bit too soon. At the moment, I'm saying it's a sort of 50-50 shot. But look, we've got a little bit of strength and depth in that squad now, following that recruitment in January. We've had Bruno, who's yet, to be given a start in the Premier League. So, he'll be champing at the bit to come in, and things are looking a lot rosier for the Magpies at the moment.
Let's move it closer to home for me. We're going to focus on the London clubs for a bit. We've got Chelsea, some interesting news there with club captain Azpilicueta and also Callum Hudson-Odoi. Yeah,
difficult one, this. Thomas Tuchel talked about, obviously, the players who played at the Club World Cup, then travelling back. I think he mentioned that there was a 30-degree difference in climate. Players had colds. Air conditioning on the planes that were affecting them, Tino Werner being one of those. And then also, the changing of the schedules and timings. And we've had a couple of players who sort of complained of a little bit discomfort and pain from the training pitches, and those being Azpilicueta. There was a problem there on Wednesday, failed a late fitness test, and also Callum Hudson-Odoi, an issue, I think, was a muscular issue in training as well. And Thomas Tuchel said he didn't want to take the risk with him this weekend. So they don't sound as if they're too serious. But again, this is just a little bit of a carryover and fallout from that Club World Cup as players are maybe getting back into those old familiar routines in cold or old winter and windy Blighty.
I mean, do you have a bit of concern because they're obviously soft Southerners? If they were up in Newcastle, they'd be absolutely fine to play those games. Let's move the attention, though, to south of the river. Crystal Palace, Gaeta. I mean, that was another one that a lot of people didn't see coming.
Yeah, I mean, he was forced off at half time there. It wasn't evident as to what the issue was. We've seen Jack Butland warming up, and then obviously that was a good indicator that things weren't all quite as it should be with Vicente Guaita. Patrick Vieira's come out and he said he had the problem at the back of his knee. So we don't know if that's muscular related in terms of one of those insertion points from the hamstring, that distal end, or if it's actually sort of in and around that knee. So we'll wait to find out with regards to that. He'll be assessed. And like I say, maybe over the next 24 to 48 hours, he may require imaging to determine that, to give an exact prognosis. But, the midweek game could become too soon. It's a quick turnaround. So maybe Jack Butland, is in line for another Premier League start.
Then moving further along the Thames, we got Brentford. What's the latest with Ivan Toney? Because he's somebody that I think could be of interest if Eriksen starts playing in the team as well. I think he might be getting a few more high quality opportunities to put away.
Yeah, well, I mean, just touching on Christian Eriksen first, he played his first minutes for the Bees last Monday in a behind closed doors friendly against Southend. Played around about 60 minutes, provided an assist for Josh Da Silva. Thomas Frank said this weekend was too early, but he is scheduled to play against Rangers on Monday again, so 7 days later. If he comes through that, then he should be in and around that match day squad. Similarly, Ivan Toney, he's missed the last few with a calf complaint. Now, it was always only an outside chance that Toney could have made that Arsenal game. He hasn't actually trained fully with the squad. He's only taken part in aspects and some light work, so he hasn't been fully integrated. And the fact that he was put through a test, but they decided to err on the side of caution and keep him out. But hopefully he'll progress this week, and game week 27 certainly can't be ruled out for him.
And just on that Brentford situation again, I don't think we get tired of ever saying it. It's just so brilliant to see Eriksen back and possibly lighting up the Premier League once again. Moving to his old club, though, we're going to talk about Tottenham here. Reguilon, potentially COVID for him as well. And just kind of reiterating the point that we said about COVID, how long possibly can he be out for? Or is it again down to how quickly the player individually recovers from this?
Yeah, it is very much down to the individual. Antonio Conte didn't name individuals on Friday when he spoke about potential absences for the City game. We knew that Japhet Tandanga, knee, and Oliver Skip, groin, I think it was, were definitely out. And he said a third player was also missing because of COVID. We're reading between the lines here because the Spaniard hasn't been named in the matchday squad at the Etihad. There's been no official confirmation. But, typically now, given, the government protocol and the slight changes, potentially you can see players back, with rejoining the group fairly quickly. So, once they're integrated back into the squad and training again, you can expect a quicker turnaround, a quicker return to play. And you can't rule out game week 27 for Reguilon.
So moving from the worst half of London in Tottenham to the best half, let's move it to Arsenal. Tomiyasu is another one of interest because, again, Arsenal have a double game week coming up. He's absolutely fantastic, a really kind of cheap defender as well in a pretty good Arsenal defence. What's the kind of news there? Because he's kind of been flirting with returning for a while.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's a player who I didn't have him in my predicted starting 11 this week. Mikel Arteta said that he has been training with the group, but he isn't 100%, and there are still slight concerns with regards to his match fitness. Of course, he came in. To give you an idea of the impact, he came into the team, and we talked about that period of adaptation. And I think it was something like from game week 4 to game week 18 when he came in. There were only 2 outfield players who had played more minutes than him, and those were his defensive teammates. I think it was Ben White and Gabriel, if I recall correctly. So that was his importance. And maybe, a little bit of that caught up with him. He was carrying that calf problem. He played against Liverpool when maybe he shouldn't have, and he probably played a little bit too long into that game. In hindsight, Mikel Arteta would want to change that. So now, again, they're treating him with kid gloves a little bit. We've got Cedric Soares in there who's doing a bit of a job. So yeah, look, he's in and around, but again, it comes down to a bit of management from Mikel Arteta, and also as a token, that's Tottenham have just scored.
Oh no!
And I think it might be Harry Kane. Is it Harry Kane? I captained Harry Kane in one of my teams. Is it? There you go. That's your life. Yes, it is. It's definitely a Harry Kane goal. I did not see it. I seen something flash up there in the mirror, actually, as it happened. So,
Ben, you're doing your best Arsene Wenger impression there. I did not see it.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh no. I tell you what, it's a great attempted pass from Harry Kane. He tried to pick out Heung-min Son. Didn't reach him. Ball breaks down. Then Harry Kane continues his run forward, picked out by Son. It's a great pass and it's a great finish from Harry Kane. tucked it away. Edison, absolutely no chance. Just side-footed, slots it in the roof of the net. I picked that out. Great finish. Maybe question marks over that City defence. But there we go. Yeah, as it happens.
Live reaction there. Breaking my heart. Live on stream, everybody. So we're going to move it to the final team. Oh, actually, we do have one question. Two questions actually come in. Kafdan has asked any news about Mason Mount and James returning by game week 28, Ben?
Game week 28. So, yeah, certainly not out the realms of possibility. Mason Mount, he's targeting the Carabao Cup. I would say it's a 50-50 shout at the moment. We know that's ankle ligament damage, but he will doing everything this week to try and make the final next weekend. Reece James, he is hopeful of rejoining the squad this week. So, if that happens, then, potentially he's got 7 to 10 days maybe in his legs ahead of game week 28. But ideally, given the amount of time that he spent on the sidelines, he's not a player that I would expect Thomas Tuchel to throw straight back in there. But of course, there are always context in and around that in terms of, maybe if Azpilicueta isn't fit, if they pick up another couple of injuries, then, Reece James might be needed. But ideally, I would say integrated in the squad and maybe looking at towards maybe game week 29 or even game week 30 before a potential start for Reece James.
And Wing L hasn't actually sent in a question. He's just sent in a nice compliment. He said, great info, Ben, early in the stream as I was looking into why Alan San-Maxim was not playing. That's why we're here to help. Like I said a little bit earlier, please do hit that subscribe button because then you are in the loop. No rumour, no misinformation. We tell you all the most important team news. Final team that we are giving you news on, though, is Brighton. Some interest in the FPL community, some in fan team, some in the betting community. Webster being injured. They're a pretty good backline, although the result today might not suggest that. What is the news there with Brighton?
Yeah, so this was a late one as well. Really went under the radar. So I'm not sure if this was actually an injury that was picked up against Manchester United at Old Trafford on Tuesday or after Graham Potter's press conference. Like I say, there was certainly no mention of it there. But he's had a groin problem that kept him out of the game. Now, it doesn't look to be too serious. He's potentially in line for a return in game week 27. So that's good news, and maybe that Brighton performance, is that a reflection of him missing from that back line and also Lewis Dunk, or the fact it's a little bit of fatigue with it being their second game in a week catching up with them? But either way, hopeful that both of those players should return for the Seagulls next weekend.
And we're hopeful that you return to the channel soon because we've got so much good content here. But that is the end of today's stream. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope this information has been useful. As always, this injury news is ever adapting through the week, so stay tuned to the channel, stay tuned to Ben's Twitter as well. There's so much good information on there, and like I said, no misinformation. We're just telling you the straight up news, no rumours, just full facts. But for now, I'm going to wish you the best of luck. Enjoy the rest of the Man City game, or if you're watching after the stream, have a good rest of your weekend, and we will see you again very, very soon. And I've forgotten how to switch off the stream here.